Donald Trump's tenure as President of the United States remains one of the most controversial and scrutinized periods in contemporary politics. Known for his unconventional rhetoric, Trump often made headlines with statements that ranged from provocative to outright contentious. One such declaration involved his vision of Canada becoming the 51st state of the United States and his interest in purchasing Greenland, an autonomous territory under Denmark. While many dismiss these remarks as political theatrics, a closer analysis reveals a calculated strategy that intertwines economic interests, resource acquisition, and national security concerns. Trump's remarks on Canada and Greenland are not isolated statements, but part of a broader framework that highlights his priorities: securing U.S. borders, addressing immigration issues, leveraging natural resources, and asserting American dominance in global geopolitics. This essay delves into the intricacies of these issues, exploring the motivations behind Trump's controversial proposals and their potential implications for the United States and the world. Donald Trump's geopolitical ambitions, an in-depth analysis. Donald Trump, the 45th President of the United States, is a figure who has consistently captured global attention with his bold rhetoric, unorthodox political strategies, and a distinct approach to international relations. His tenure was marked by policies and statements that often polarized opinion, but strategically reflected a calculated geopolitical vision. Among his most controversial proposals was the idea of Canada becoming the 51st state of the United States and his interest in purchasing Greenland, a Danish autonomous territory. Though many dismiss these ideas as outlandish, a deeper analysis reveals underlying motivations rooted in economic, security, and geopolitical interests. This essay explores Trump's statements and strategies surrounding Canada and Greenland, examining their historical context, economic implications, and potential global impact. It also sheds light on Trump's communication methods, immigration policies, and his vision for expanding America's global influence. One of Trump's defining characteristics is his ability to dominate headlines with provocative remarks. Often perceived as erratic or unfiltered, his statements serve a dual purpose. They distract his critics and unsettle opponents while laying the groundwork for policy initiatives. For instance, when Trump suggested that Canada should become the 51st U.S. state, or that the United States should purchase Greenland, critics and analysts alike debated whether these were serious proposals or mere distractions. However, a closer examination reveals a consistent pattern. Trump's comments often prelude strategic actions. By making bold claims, he tests the waters, gauges public reaction, and pressures stakeholders into negotiations. NATO funding. Trump's public criticisms of NATO allies for not meeting their defense spending commitments initially drew backlash, but ultimately led to increased contributions from member nations. China and trade. His tariffs and accusations of unfair trade practices against China were initially dismissed as aggressive posturing, but resulted in renegotiations of trade deals. This pattern suggests that Trump's rhetoric on Canada and Greenland was likely a calculated move to advance specific goals related to immigration, resource acquisition, and economic dominance. Trump's suggestion that Canada should become a part of the United States is rooted in several intertwined factors: border security, economic integration, and resource control. While the idea may seem far-fetched, the motivations behind it deserve scrutiny. Border security and immigration. The US-Canada border, spanning over 5,500 miles, is the longest undefended border in the world. Historically, the focus of US border security has been on its southern border with Mexico, where illegal immigration and drug trafficking are major concerns. However, Trump highlighted a growing threat from the northern border, citing concerns over illegal immigration and inadequate enforcement. Canada's relatively lenient immigration policies, which allow large numbers of refugees and immigrants to enter, have raised alarms in the US. Some fear that individuals entering Canada might eventually cross into the US illegally. Trump's administration emphasized the need to tighten northern border security, proposing increased patrols and technological surveillance. Economic interdependence. Canada and the United States share one of the largest trading relationships in the world, with trade between the two nations amounting to over $700 billion annually. By integrating Canada into the US, Trump envisioned consolidating economic policies, reducing trade barriers, and gaining direct access to Canada's vast natural resources. Oil reserves. Canada is home to the world's third-largest oil reserves, a resource the US heavily relies on. Minerals and forests. Canada's abundance of timber and rare earth minerals could further strengthen US industries. Strategic leverage over global rivals. Integrating Canada would bolster US geopolitical influence, particularly against rivals like China and Russia. Canada's Arctic territories are strategically valuable, offering access to untapped resources and new shipping routes as polar ice caps melt. Trump's interest in purchasing Greenland, though mocked by many, reflects long-standing US strategic goals in the Arctic. Greenland, the world's largest island, holds immense strategic and economic value due to its location, natural resources, and geopolitical significance. First, let's talk about its strategic location. Greenland sits between North America and Europe, making it a critical point for military and trade routes. It is also a vital component of Arctic geopolitics, where nations like the US, Russia, and China compete for dominance. The US already maintains a military presence in Greenland through the Thule Air Base, but outright ownership would provide greater control over the region. Now, onto resource richness. Greenland is believed to hold vast reserves of oil, natural gas, and rare earth minerals, which are essential for advanced technologies such as electronics, batteries, and defense equipment. As global demand for these resources grows, control over Greenland could give the US a significant advantage. Finally, let's consider historical precedents. The idea of purchasing Greenland is not new. In 1946, the US offered Denmark $100 million for Greenland, recognizing its strategic value in the aftermath of World War II. Trump's proposal can be seen as a continuation of this historical ambition. Trump's approach to energy policy prioritized domestic production and reduced reliance on foreign oil. His administration championed fossil fuels, rolled back environmental regulations, and dismissed renewable energy initiatives as impractical. His statements on Greenland align with this vision, as the island's untapped oil and gas reserves could further bolster US energy independence. Let's dive into his opposition to climate change policies. Trump frequently dismissed climate change as a hoax and criticized international agreements like the Paris Climate Accord. His emphasis on resource extraction, including oil drilling in the Arctic, reflects a broader strategy to maximize short-term economic gains. And then there are the economic benefits of energy independence. By securing new energy resources, Trump aimed to reduce US reliance on Middle Eastern oil and strengthen the dollar's position as the global reserve currency. This aligns with his broader economic strategy of reducing trade deficits and increasing exports. Trump's rhetoric extended beyond North America and the Arctic. His strong warnings to Hamas over hostages taken during the Israel-Gaza conflict reflect a broader shift in US foreign policy under his leadership. Trump's approach to the Middle East was characterized by a combination of diplomacy and military strength. One of Trump's significant achievements in the Middle East was brokering the Abraham Accords, which normalized relations between Israel and several Arab nations. This initiative aimed to reduce regional tensions and counter Iran's influence. Trump's warning to Hamas underscores his willingness to use military force to protect American interests. His administration frequently employed targeted strikes against terrorist leaders, emphasizing a peace through strength doctrine. Donald Trump's comments about incorporating Canada and acquiring Greenland align with a broader concept of Greater America. While such an idea might seem ambitious or impractical, it reflects a historical pattern of American expansionism driven by economic, military, and strategic considerations. The idea of territorial expansion has been central to US history. From the Louisiana Purchase in 1803 to the annexation of Alaska in 1867, the US has historically sought to expand its landmass to enhance its geopolitical influence. Trump's vision echoes this tradition. The Louisiana Purchase secured vast land and resources. The annexation of Hawaii strengthened US naval power in the Pacific, and the Alaska Purchase acquired strategic land and resource reserves from Russia. By proposing the integration of Canada and Greenland, Trump invoked the same expansionist philosophy, but tailored it to modern geopolitical challenges. Economic benefits are a key driver of Trump's expansionist vision. Canada and Greenland offer immense natural resources, from Canada's vast oil sands to Greenland's untapped reserves of rare earth minerals. Control over these resources would not only enhance US economic power, but also reduce dependence on foreign imports. Canada is already a major supplier of energy and raw materials to the US, while Greenland's resources could make America a dominant global supplier of rare earth elements. Incorporating Canada into the US economy could lead to seamless trade and a unified market that boosts GDP growth. With melting Arctic ice caps opening new shipping routes and resource access, control over Greenland would give the US a commanding position in the Arctic. Trump's vision of Greater America also encompasses military advantages. Greenland's location provides a strategic foothold in the Arctic, enabling the US to counter Russian and Chinese ambitions in the region. Integrating Canada into the US would streamline military collaboration and bolster North American defense. While Trump's proposal to make Canada the 51st state may serve strategic purposes, it faces significant challenges, both practical and political. Canada, a sovereign nation with a distinct political and cultural identity, is unlikely to entertain the idea of integration with the US. The country's emphasis on multiculturalism, universal healthcare, and environmental policies contrasts sharply with Trump's vision for America. Incorporating Canada into the US would require constitutional amendments in both nations, approval from Canadian provinces and US states, and support from international bodies like the United Nations. Public opinion in Canada is overwhelmingly opposed to becoming a US state, with many Canadians valuing their independence and distinct national identity. Donald Trump's proposals to incorporate Canada as the 51st state and purchase Greenland are bold and controversial ideas that reflect his broader vision of expanding US influence. While these proposals face significant practical and political challenges, they highlight Trump's strategic approach to geopolitics, which prioritizes economic gain, resource security, and military dominance. Though many dismiss his rhetoric as outlandish, Trump's track record suggests a calculated strategy behind his statements. Whether or not these ambitions are realized, they underscore the evolving dynamics of global politics and America's ongoing quest for dominance in an increasingly competitive world.